and welcome back to Overbooked. I'm Amanda, and today we are doing my August wrap-up. Here we are, it is August, or now it's September. We have made it into sweater weather, we have made it into football season, we have made it into pumpkin spice cafes, pumpkin spice lattes, and everything that's fall. Summer is far behind us, it seems like. Every time I go on social media, people are just like, talking about fall vibes, and it kind of makes me sad because I like summer. I don't really want to see it go, you know? But whatever, here we are. It also makes me like wake the fuck up because I have a lot of books I need to finish reading. Mainly if I want to finish the Reading Women Challenge this year. Very behind. I'm behind like 8 books on my Goodreads goal. So we got some catching up to do. But I've also started my class for my master's program, and I'm getting married in October, so we'll see how much reading we can get in. But in August we got 6 books read, so that was a good change of pace from the normal like maybe 3 or 4. So that was a nice kick in the butt for us to get started, to get rolling, and we read some great books. So let's get started. The first book that I finished in August was On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. And I read this with my friend Rachel, and we read this like for a little buddy read, and it was just so beautiful. I don't know how else to describe it. The writing is beautiful. It's just a beautiful book to just absorb. Like every word I felt like had such an impact. We follow our main character, and he is the son of an immigrant woman, and he lives with his mother and grandmother, who are both immigrants, and I can't remember what country, I don't know if it was Vietnam or Korea, but they're from a very war-torn country, have a lot of trauma from that they're dealing with, and he has to like grapple like his love for his mother, and then this trauma that she is experiencing, and then also passing on to him. And it's just beautiful, really, really gorgeous, so well done. Literally reads like poetry. I felt like it was just an emotional read. It was just so good. I thought that the end was a little weird and like sporadic and rushed, but I mean overall it was so good. I'm glad that Rachel recommended that we read it together, and I'm looking forward to our next buddy read, Rachel. The next book that I finished in August was The Undying by Anne Boyer. I read this for the Stacks book club that's put on by Tracy. If you have not checked out the Stacks podcast, do so now. Like, she's like a big shot now, and she runs her own podcast now. She's in the big leagues, okay? So I don't even know if this is helping her, but go check it out. The Undying was a memoir put together by Anne Boyer, and it just chronicles her life and almost kind of like the medical history of breast cancer. And it was definitely something interesting and a different perspective to that topic. I feel like, and what Anne Boyer talks about in her memoir is that when a lot of people talk about cancer survivors or cancer like patients, it's this like oorah, pink ribbons and you go girl and strong and strength and power. But a lot of the times these women in particular are kind of forgotten about. The women who like pass from it are thought of as these like angels that look over everyone, but then the women who survive are supposed to be these strong-ass warriors who beat cancer in the butt, and that's just not really how it feels. You feel weak, you feel like just unmotivated, you feel like just like everything's been taken from you, and there's just like so many different emotions. And like I think by putting up that rah 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 mantra, it like just disregards any other feelings that a cancer patient or survivor would feel. And she just goes into depth about it. And something that I really liked about the book was she talked about, there's this thing, like obviously in America, like you only have so much like medical leave that you can take, you only have so many hours, you only have so much time. And she talked a lot about how like she was a single mother and none of her friends could come to her appointments with her because they weren't her blood relative, they weren't her husband or partner. And that made it very difficult. Like she had to go to a lot of things by herself. And then there was also the thing that like when she ran out of PTO, like she just had to go to these appointments and then just like have this like, you know, such invasive like medical appointment and then just go back to her job. And to me that was, I think, I don't know why, but like I had to sit with that a little bit. I was like, what would And it's not even like that wouldn't happen to me, right? Like I could, in theory, tomorrow get cancer, go through all of my sick time, all of my PTO time, everything, and then be left with nothing and still need time off to just process. And, that was just denied to me because I used it all and I need to get paid to pay for all these medical bills. Just, I don't know. I was just like, how would I feel in that situation where I just went to this medical appointment that was just so tiresome and invasive and like depressing, and then I just have to turn around and go back to work and really pretend like nothing happened. So I don't know, that was just something that just really hit home, and she puts it in such beautiful words, better than I can, but it was really good and very thought-provoking and an interesting perspective into the American medical system. Disappointing. So number 3, the third book I read in August was Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. And I listened to this on audio, which I'm so glad I did. This was such a captivating audiobook. I have recently been trying to get back into running and just walking, and I feel like part of this video you're going to hear the lawnmower. And that's just kind of how it's going to be. So I've recently been trying to get back into all those activities, and these audiobooks have just been really helping. And I'm trying to get through a lot of books on Scribd so I can cancel my subscription, but Scribd's just being too good to me, and they're just having so many books that my library just doesn't have, so it's just tempting to keep it. But Scribd, if you want to sponsor me and give me some free Scribd months, I'll take it. Blacktop Wasteland follows our main character, and he runs an automotive shop, and he is currently struggling financially to make the payments on this shop, keep it up, also support his family, just because there's also a competing auto shop that's apparently just getting all the business, and just he's not getting any money. So what he decides to do is kind of try to fall back on his old ways, and he goes to like this because he used to be like a getaway driver, essentially. Like he used to drive and do illegal races, and like when people would put on these, like, I don't know, there would be like money heists, like he would be the driver for it, all these things. So he goes to this like illegal race, he wins money, but then it's like he gets, all these things happen, and then it leads to this encounter with an old connection, and he says he has a job for him, and I'll like score him the money he needs to get out of this hole. So we follow our main character, which his name is escaping me, I think it might have been Bug, do this job to try to get his life back on track, and he promises himself this is his job, to end all jobs, to get back into life. And it's such a fast-paced, captivating story. It was so good. I thought it was so just amazing. I thought it was great. And apparently he also has a book out called Razor Blade Tears. I don't really know what that's about, but I'm intrigued because I love this book. It was like, there is some scenes where there's like car chases or fights that are happening, and like it's intense, and I'm like running, and I'm like, I gotta fucking pick up the pace, man. I don't know if Bug's behind me, who this person is. It was just a great book. It was such a great, like, just thrill to read. I don't know if that's classified as a thriller, but it was good. It was good. Good. I can't even say anything else. The next book I finished in August was Something to Talk About by Mara Wilsner. I have a whole review on this book, so I'll try to keep this short, and I'll put the link to that below or in the cards. I've been trying that feature out, so it might be here. Something to Talk About was a book I read for the Reading Women Challenge prompt, a queer love story. So we follow two women who work together, which makes their love story very complicated, and one is the boss and the other one is the assistant, and they have to like figure out each other's feelings, and once they figure out their feelings for each other, they have to figure out how to like communicate and act on those feelings. It's a super slow burn. I didn't super enjoy it. I realized I don't really like slow burns after reading this book, because it was like, holy, just kiss already. It was so dumb. I also felt like the characters in the story did a lot more like talking to other people around them about their feelings for the other person, and then they had just so much more dialogue with the other characters, like side characters, than they did with each other. I just didn't really feel like there was that much of a spark or connection between the two main characters, and I was like, this is a love story between them, and I'm not really feeling the spice or the love or the spark. I don't know, kind of boring. So that was disappointing. I will say it was a nice, like, easy, breezy summer read. So, and it helped me get through my reading slump that I've been having recently. So there's that. Next book I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry. I read this for the girly book club that I actually didn't even end up attending. So next month we're gonna try to give it a go. But Beach Read is this book about our main character who is a writer. She's going through a writing like slump, block, whatever you may call it. And then she also just recently discovered after her father dies that he had this like affair with this woman in this beach house. And when he dies, he like essentially gives her this house to her. So to kind of escape her life or whatever, she's also very broke. So she goes and lives in this beach house and like is selling all of the old stuff and trying to process and hoping to find some inspiration here. And she realizes her neighbor is like an old college rival and he's also a writer, and they decide that they're going to like switch genres. So she usually writes like romance, like women's literature, and he writes these like really sweeping contemporary novels. And so they decide that they're going to switch genres. He's going to write a romantic book or whatever, and then she's going to write this like really intense contemporary novel. And it actually helps with their writing spark. Like they both get to writing, and then obviously it's a romance book, so there's some romance in there. And this is definitely not a slow burn. So I mean, it's not like the first page there's sex happening, but it's a lot faster happening than something to talk about. So that's what I needed. And but it wasn't bad. It was a nice, fun summer read, like literally a beach read, and I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was anything special, or like I wouldn't be like, if somebody was like, oh, what was the best book you've read this year? I would not be beach read, but it also wasn't the worst. It was just good. It was fine, and I just enjoyed myself reading it. So I've put a hold on Friends We Meet on Vacation just for shits and gigs, because that's how much I enjoyed myself. So I'm gonna check out her next book. And then lastly, the last book I read in August was The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. And this is a historical fiction novel that takes place in the 1930s. And we follow our main character, Elsa, and she marries somebody who is like a fuckboy, essentially, 5 years her junior. And she moves on to this like family farm in Texas, and they're doing fine. Like they're not like mega rich, but they're not like, you know, poor. And then obviously the Great Depression hits, dust storms, drought, you know, poverty, and she has to figure out how to get her family through this period of time. And whether that's staying on the farm or going to California to try to seek out work there, it all kind of falls on her on what to do and how to move forward. I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed this book. I will always just super love The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, so I don't think anything's ever going to top that. I don't think that this book was as good or better. I wouldn't even say that it was as good or better than The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. There was just some parts of the book that I just didn't super enjoy. One, the main character, Elsa, is just continually, or as the reader, we're continually told how ugly she is. When we first open the book, we're told like how she had like an illness as a child and it like stunted her somehow. We don't really know. Her parents just like locked her away and like just thought that she was just unworthy of love and affection, essentially. But we're just told that over and over and over and over again. The girl has no self-confidence, and to a certain point, I understood how that could kind of tie into some of the story's plot, or like how that defines her as a character, but it was almost just too reiterated that it was just pointless. I don't really think that a character being ugly is a plot point, so I didn't really need it in there. I also just didn't super enjoy how there was like this complete erasure of any people of color in this book. I don't really know exactly how to feel about it, because this is also, I mean, written by a white woman, so I don't know how well she could have illustrated people's stories, but I think the complete erasure also doesn't feel right to me. We're in the state of Texas, and there's no Hispanic or Black individuals mentioned at all. That part I could kind of be like, maybe that would have been accurate because they're in an all-white town. Maybe they just obviously people didn't socialize with other colors, especially in the 30s. But when they go to California, I'm a little taken aback how there's not really any interaction with any Hispanic people at all, or Asian people. I just was like kind of taken aback that it is mentioned that like the jobs that Elsa and her family go out there for were previously filled by Mexican workers who got pushed out after this crash happens in 1929. But these people aren't mentioned again or ever brought up again. And there's this group that's in the book that's called like the Workers Alliance that's fighting for these, you know, farmers' rights. These people who are like picking the crops and stuff, the jobs that were previously held by Mexicans. And they talk about how unfair and how unjust these jobs are, how poorly paid. And it just is kind of curious to me where I'm like, where were you then? Like when these jobs were filled by white people? It just kind of is an interesting topic of discussion. I don't know. I just didn't sit right with me. So for that, I think this like lost a lot of enjoyment, but otherwise I liked the overall story. I definitely was captivated. I finished it quite quickly. There were some parts that were a little slow, but overall I really enjoyed it. And I mean, I really love a historical fiction novel, especially that's set in the 1930s. So I can't super complain, but those were my two things with the book that I didn't like. Okay, so that was all of the books that I read in August. Hopefully we can keep this like trend up with reading all these books. I think going forward, my main priority is going to be trying to check out books in the library that are for the Reading Women Challenge so I can actually finish that. That is a big goal of mine. I've never finished the Reading Women Challenge, so I would love to do it this year. So that's what I'm going to try to do. In the comments below, let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about today, or if what your favorite book you read in August, or what you're reading right now. I'd love to hear it, so please let me know. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you guys next time.